right, guys, headed out here in Bistineau this afternoon. I've got a couple hours. I think I'm gonna try to catch some crappie first. See, I heard they're moving up into the trees, which they should be. So I might try a brush pile or two and then up in the trees, see how that works out, and then switch over to bass. I'm not entirely sure, don't know what I'm gonna catch, but I'd like to use live scope today. So that's the plan anyway. Let's see what happens. Good one. I noticed the brim started moving up, so I threw on this little crankbait, a jerk bait really. Nice fish. Bistineau, or in lakes like this anyway, they like these baits during this time of the year whenever these when these brims start moving up, end of April, beginning of May. You can catch them pretty good on these type of jerk baits. And for whatever reason, this color, this sort of gold and black, this is just a XPS version. But they'll hit any of them, especially the Rapala. But I decided just to use the cheaper one. It's like $3. Works pretty well. And you cover a lot of ground pretty quick whenever they're aggressive anyway. Looked like a female that had already spawned and started fattening back up. You can catch them all around trees. You just have to be careful throwing it up there. Obviously treble hooks everywhere, so you got to take it easy. What you want to do whenever you're throwing these things around the trees is throw it there, you reel it, you want to stop, reel it, stop. Now you can do that anytime on the cast. They'll hit it if it's just rolling by, but it seems to help if when you're rolling it by, if you just stop right even with the structure that you think the fish might be on, and it sort of hovers there for a second, and right when you take off again, that's when they like to nail it. Another nice fish. Finally able to get in some of these spawning flats. That fish hit at it 2 or 3 times. Came out of this debris in here. This is kind of areas where I really can't throw that road. All right, guys, it's approaching that time of the year when you can really catch them in any way that you feel confident with, or whatever you like to fish. The water temperature is approaching 80 degrees. In the next week to 2 weeks, the brim are going to really start coming up. There's already some, but they're small. In fact, I used today just a Rogue for a little while, because there was an area where there was a few brim, and it produced bass. And there's bass really all the way up into dirt shallow, and going all the way out into about 6 to 7 feet of water, something like that. They're staged up there. I caught a few that I feel like they already spawned out and begun to eat again, and there was a couple of them that were still full of eggs that hadn't gone up yet. There's always sort of a late crop too. They start at the end of February and really run through the end of April, beginning of May at the latest. And right now, the fish are really spread out, which means you can catch fish when you go, but you may not catch a lot of numbers unless you're moving a lot, or you just happen to find an area where they're staged up. Now, here in Bistineau, from here on out through the summer, you're going to be able to do a number of different things. Go in to beat the bank, and you can do that with a number of soft plastics if you like. Usually something in a crawfish color, black and blue, works really well to do that. And on the trees, say 3 foot and less, you'll be able to catch bass. Here, really all the way through July, something like that, about whenever they start drawing this lake down. And the same thing is true, I think, in the 6 to 8 foot range, where you'll be able to use baits like a Senko, some crankbaits around the edges of the trees. And by June, so another month out, those fish are going to be everything's going to have spawned already. And what happens is that that's the time when the catfish are really setting off, getting ready to spawn, and the shad start to build up. The shad, the white bass, the little hybrid stripers, and there'll be schools of those running along the edge of the channel. And so when that happens, you can actually go along the edge of the channel, of any of the channels in the lake, with a crankbait and throw off into the trees in the shallow and pull it off, or throw down the ledge. And you can actually pick off some bass like that. There'll be some schooling that'll happen. You'll probably catch a few hybrid stripers as well. But you'll be able to do that all summer, really. And again, until they start to drop it. Now, when they drop it, I'm not actually sure what's going to happen this year. It's been a little bit different, but obviously they're going to be confined to a smaller area. So you'll probably still be able to go along the edges of the channel with a crankbait if that's possible. Now, if there's salvinia in the area where you are, all bets are off and whatever you can do. It gets so choked up by that point usually that there's a real problem. But in general, the open water near the edges of the channel, you can probably hit those tree lines, I'm betting, year round. You can find somewhere to do that, and you'll be able to catch them. If you see bait, there's going to be bass there. And I noticed that today as I was moving around. I'm beginning to see small brim, some minnows, and some minnows moving up, and I see minnows getting run around by brim and goggle eye, which are already up here. And those things are going to provide food for the bass. And the bass will also eat, though, their prey, the minnows as well. So you have that option. You're going to see that. So you can actually start throwing a spinnerbait. You can do that anywhere, really, from all the way up dirt shallow all the way out to the channel edge. I'd suggest either white or something that's a brim color. There's usually a color that's sort of dark. It's like a purple and blue and maybe a little bit of a black in it, and sometimes some hints of red. And I've found that it doesn't really matter all that much what color the blades are here. I tend to use spinnerbaits that have sort of one of each, a gold and a silver, and just pull it along, generally slowly, especially around areas where well, there's nothing here that you can see in the moment, but earlier where I was fishing, there was a lot of trees down in the water, and you could pull it over those trees, and generally those fish are going to be hiding out underneath that. And the hotter it gets at this point, it's going to be more and more difficult to catch them in the middle of the day, by the way. This lake is an evening lake, and this time of the day is going to really turn on as the heat picks up. When we start getting those 100-degree days or upper 90s, what's going to happen is that you're going to have a bite in the morning, and then by 10 a.m. it sort of shuts off. And starting about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, you'll start to catch a few fish. But that last hour and a half, it's sort of like magic here in the middle of the summer when it's really hot. The sun starts to go down, the fish start to roam. They've been sitting all day somewhere in the shade, and now they're on the run. And for me, what I do at that time is I throw a lizard. And I don't know that it matters all that much what color it is. If you need a weight on it, you can put a weight on it to throw it out there, but I'd suggest something very small. But really, just run that lizard across the top of the water. Right across the top of the water, you're going to get big explosions and blow-ups on that lizard. You can throw a frog the same way, either a hollow body or a ribbit frog, but really what works even better to catch more fish is going to be the lizard, because some of the smaller fish are not going to go after the hollow body frog or the ribbit frog, but they will hit the lizard. There were periods of time last year in the evenings when I went, and in the last hour and a half I caught 25 fish very easily. So if you get off in an open flat somewhere where the sunlight has been beating all day, and they're going to run right out of the trees and out of the cover into that area and start roaming and just smacking everything right at dark. This time right now, when the wind lays down, it gets real slick, and you're going to be able to catch some fish. So I'm excited about that for this time of the year, because right now there's a lot going on, and so the fish are sort of spread out in a lot of different ways. We're still having cool fronts. That's affecting them a little bit, but we're getting to the point where we're going to start having that steady weather, and once we do, they're going to get into that summer pattern. And when they do, again, during the daytime, you're going to want to fish on those deeper trees or up in the banks in the shade. And in the evening, open flats with a lizard, and hang on and get tight lines. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. See you guys next time.